How serious is our dollar struggle? How serious is people's personal dollar struggle? How serious is the movement away from the dollar? Well, today we're talking about all that because it deals with your money. Not only your money, your freedom. What do I always tell you? Without the dollar, without cash, you have no freedom. Crypto is no freedom. Credit cards and ATMs and all this newest way of money is no freedom. This new push for stablecoin, no freedom. Today we're going to discuss all that because when everybody's telling you to not buy dollars, not have cash, and cash is bad, I'm telling you to do the exact opposite. We need to have some cash. Because until we're proactive with it and show that we want it, we're just pushing ourselves deeper and deeper into a hole. We're going to talk about the dollar today and talk about Fed's role, Trump's role, our role, and again, what everyone else is saying about it. There's some bank warnings. The 4 biggest banks in America are moving towards no dollars and only crypto. You don't believe me? Wait till you hear this story. Also, we're going to discuss a few more details on what is going on in the world with AI, with chaos, things that are happening all around us that we're not paying attention to. Let's dive into these stories. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here. We're humbled again by your support, coming daily to watch our content. We hope it's thought-provoking. We also hope that we get a common sense approach to it, because I think that what we mostly learn on this channel is just like, that's probably what grandma would have told me or grandpa would have told me. That's kind of the purpose. We need to get back to traditional values, traditional morals, and understanding the value of really what's important in life. And we need wisdom, and that's how we need to go back to it, is see what they've done, see how we can improve in some areas, but also just see if things have worked so good for so long, why change it? Prime example, our dollar. Let's talk about our dollar. Now, for the longest, everybody's told us, well, the Fed knows best, and they're going to control our dollar. They're going to control our interests. Well, the government knows best. They're going to make sure that we're safe. The petrodollar, all this stuff. And what we've seen is actually the dollar is falling harder than it's ever fell. Now, first, let's talk about the Fed. The Fed has done nothing but really keep our interest rates high when Trump and the Treasury are pushing against it. Now, I'm going to say 2 things about this. First, I don't believe the interest rate should be too low, because I believe people are spending way too much money now. And actually, I believe when the interest rate's higher, people tend to borrow less. We need to quit borrowing money, not only for America in the sense of the people, but also the country. Now, do I believe the interest rate should be low? Yes, but I also believe we need to quit spending money. So I believe if the Fed lowers the interest rate, we need to make sure that we're not just blowing extra money or just saying, okay, well, the interest rates lower the debt because we're not servicing so much interest on the debt. But here's the thing, instead of us taking advantage of that and paying extra principal and not spending more, we just spend more money as the government. So I do believe that the interest rates being a little higher is not a bad thing. Now, that being said, I do believe that the interest rates are high, not because the Fed wants to control and help the economy. I actually think the Fed is trying to destroy Trump and destroy the dollar at the same time. Dollar gives us freedom. What you don't realize and remember is, for instance, I sold the big red truck the other day. If you remember me talking about that on the vlog, and if you remember my big red truck, we did all the work that we wanted to do on farm. But when I actually bought that truck, and then when I sold that truck, both those transactions were with cash. It was for undisclosed amount on the front end, undisclosed amount on the back end. Now, say if that was on credit cards or with these banks that we're fixing to discuss, or in a situation where some kind of cash app or social media app or some kind of PayPal, then there would be a record of that transaction. And then they're going to say, okay, well, we need to look at maybe taxing this. Or wait, that truck has got major emissions because it's a 1960s model truck. We need to know more about this transaction. But no, I have the freedom. Now, why do I bring that up? Because when we have the dollar, we have freedom. I went to a restaurant last night in our town. It's my son's girlfriend's birthday. So we went out, we took her out to eat and just said, happy birthday. You know, we don't go out and eat, but so we really make this festive. And so on my ticket, it comes back and says, okay, here's your total. And it was like $7 or $8 less to do on cash versus a card, because it saves them money, saves them processing fees. So you know what? Anytime I have a chance, I'm paying cash. Why? Because I want to be proactively helping businesses save money. I want to be proactively helping them use their dollars for what they want to use their dollars for. I want to be proactively to say, I don't need the banks to help us do transactions. I want freedom. Now, the Fed is pushing against our dollar. What about just the government in general? Well, the Trump administration has now quit making pennies. Now, is this a big deal? Kobe, it's a penny. Nothing can be bought for a cent anymore. True. Do I believe probably pennies and nickels are both going to come obsolete the next 2 or 3 years? Truthfully, yes. What I don't want to see, though, is a slippery slope to say, well, we see the point is not really cash and coins anymore. It's just too much. It's all in your pocket. It's all in your wallet. Kind of weighs you down. We just need to start getting away from it because it's just not cost effective anymore. Sadly, it should be cost effective. Or we should make the penny worth more or the nickel worth more. We should be making sure things are cost effective. But why are we getting rid of a penny when it's not cost effective, but then we can waste all the money on Medicaid expenditures and SNAP expenditures and all these other expenditures that really cost us money? See, that's what I'm saying. We're pushing against the dollar and the cash and the coin system because it's, it costs us money to make the penny or the nickel. But doesn't everything government do cost us money and doesn't save us money and actually is not worth some of the investment we're making in it? So you see how slowly but surely the Fed is pushing against the dollar with interest rates and also really calculated harm for Trump and the economy because they want to move to a reset. Secondly, we see the Treasury and the Trump administration's pushing against because it's not cost effective to make the penny or nickel because it's just more easy to do things on your phone and do things technological. Well, again, what has government done that's actually been beneficial to us to save money on any program they do? Typically, government wastes money. So we're choosing to say, okay, well, we're wasting money on pennies and nickels. We're wasting money on quarters. We're wasting money on the $1 bill. We're wasting money on the $5 bill. Let's just go with hundreds and 20. You see how easy that is? Because if it's not quote unquote cost effective, then why keep doing it? But again, I go back. When is anything that government does cost effective? I want you to listen to what the Kobayashi letter says. It says, the decline of value of fiat currencies fall against the gold is truly remarkable. Since 1971, the US dollar has lost 98.94% of its value towards gold, the second largest fall among major currencies. Now, let's go and start with two things. Cash should be based on gold. We should have never got off the gold standard. I think Nixon was scared to death of what the CIA knew and what other big players knew in the world. And I think he trusted people like, Kissinger. And I think what you're seeing with Trump's resurgence in the Middle East and talking to Saudi, I actually think he's trying to look for kind of like a 2.0 version of money and monetary policy. Now the thing is, I'm scared that even the Trump administration's monetary policy is towards stablecoin and towards digitized currency because that's what the world is moving to. So even in the 70s when Kissinger started all this push and even though Trump is doing this 2.0 monetary policy, I think they're both not going towards gold and I think they're both not going towards the benefit of the true dollar. So we actually have not gained anything really beneficial other than debt from even the 70s. So I'll go back to now we have our Fed that's been around since the early 1900s that's really destroyed the whole monetary system and actually putting in new taxes basically. Then we have the administrations in all government who has literally hurt our old dollar and really has moved away from the dollar and also hasn't quit spending. Think of our Congress, they've not quit spending. There's never been a time that we've quit spending. And now they're taking away things like our coins. Now let's move to the banks. Now before we move to the banks and before we talk about what we should be doing with our dollars, a word from today's sponsor. Have you ever Googled yourself and literally your family members and information of yours came up? The question always comes to mind is how much of my public information is actually on the World Wide Web, on the internet where people could just access it. Not only that, think about all the spam calls you get, all the spam emails you get. I get several a day and have to block and block and block. That's where my friends at Aura, the sponsor of today's video, can help. Aura will help remove your personal information from data brokers and people searching sites to sell your information from and to identity thieves and scammers and more. Aura monitors your personal data, including your social security number, your house number, your phone number. And not only do they check it and monitor it, they will alert you if all of a sudden they find that your information has been compromised. Also, Aura VPN protects you on the internet, and this was with military grade protection when it comes to Aura Aura's VPN. It blocks all scam and phishing sites from getting your information in your accounts. What about an antivirus? What about a password manager? 24/7 US-based support. I get all this in one app called Aura. I do not want to leave myself vulnerable. We talk about it all the time. We live in a digitized world. The last thing I want to do is protect my home and not protect myself online. Check out aura.com/themacs today. You will not be sorry that you did. My information is mine. My social is my social. My address is mine. The last thing I want is someone else to have it. You can go to my link below, aura.com/themacs, and get 2 weeks free. That will be enough for you to see how Aura is an asset to you, because you're going to realize how much you're exposed online. Stop leaving yourself vulnerable. Check out Aura today. Link is in the description. Thank you so much, Aura, for sponsoring today's video. I want you to listen to this. Breaking: 3 of the largest U.S. banks that are worth $8 trillion, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they're all launching a stablecoin. What you're seeing is Bitcoin and crypto go mainstream. Now, most people are like, oh, this is a great thing, Colby. This is great. We need to see this. Bitcoin is going up, crypto is going up. We're happy, parallel. The more you see the biggest banks, I say this like a broken record, the more you see the biggest banks and of people like BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard get into crypto, they're becoming more mainstream. Mainstream means things that we've pushed against for so long. That's like us saying, yes, we love the Fed because they're getting into stablecoin. Yes, the Fed rocks. Now, we're not saying that, are we? But it's because we think that this crypto system or this Bitcoin system and this, Nakamoto situation is all for our good. Have you ever thought that crypto is probably made by the government so we can all act like it's a good thing and all of a sudden everybody gets put on it to then turn around and see that Trump declared an emergency and started nuclear energy back because of our problem with our grid? And if everybody's on the grid with their electronic currencies and the grid falters, no money, no problem. Government handouts? Yes, the government. You will need to be like the Egyptians and the Jews going to Joseph for food because he chose to be smart and prep because he had a vision. Now, we're not having a vision. But what I'm trying to say is, if we really want independence, do you honestly believe putting your money on some kind of cryptos that is now backed by the Fed, by the government, by every big global player in the world, and then all of a sudden now JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo has all joined hands? The same people that we pushed against for the last, 20 years of being into the global initiatives? But now we're all for it because they're believing in crypto. I mean, everybody and their mama is talking about how great this is. Now, Colby, what should we do? What should we do? Here's a few things that I'm doing with my cash right now. First of all, I'm stockpiling cash. I'm telling you that because I'm not putting it all in my home, so that way I won't get robbed, for one thing. But I'm placing money not just in banks. I'm placing cash places that are very inconspicuous and, of course, that are going to be worth something to me. Now, people are like, well, Colby, that means the dollar will fail and you're going to have worthless currency. Look at the Confederate money. Yeah, but they give you a time frame. If we actually see that and then you want to trade it in, trade it in. But you know why I have cash? Because then I can barter. Then I can buy the things I want to buy without anyone knowing about it. Now, am I buying anything wrong? No. But just like the big red truck bought, the big red truck sold, it didn't take government involved in that. It didn't take every line out item showing that, because it was a transaction between me and another individual. That's where cash is benefit, and that's why people, I think, are pushing against the dollar. It's because they're not part of your transaction. Why do you think these banks are getting into stable coins? Because they want to be part of not only your transactions, everyone's transactions, and without them, you can't do anything. Think about this way. Think of garage sales. Think of used cars. Think of farmer buying from a farmer. Think of giving happy birthday cards. Think of giving graduation gifts. Think of paying your beautician and giving her a tip. Think about, you have a young high schooler that's coming to weed eat for you and help clean up your yard, and you want to give him a little spending money. Do you realize all that's obsolete when you don't have cash? What are you going to do? Say, hey, let me cash app you. That sounds cool, and that sounds trendy, and that's really cool. And that sounds like what everybody's doing now. But honestly, are we really wanting that? Do we really want everybody's life and everybody's money and everybody's thoughts, everybody that does work, has to go through a phone system or a telecommunication system or some kind of banking system? Is that really what we want? I want you to listen to what Mark Carney says, and here's why I want to make it. This is not about the dollar, but this is why I think it's important. Newly elected Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney just announced that he will get companies and make companies do and believe in the climate agenda. Whoever refuses this will be punished. And you're like, Colby, what does that have to do? That's Canada. Mark Carney was part of the WEF. WEF was the same people of Bank of America, BlackRock, all these places that are now embracing stablecoin. How can the Canadian minister punish these companies if they don't follow his protocol? Let's think about that for a second. If all our money is on the blockchain, all our money is on the grid, all our money is tied up in the believers of this initiative, then that means they can control you and punish you, because then they can stop your funds. Think of the truckers in Canada. They stopped the flow of funds. But if you had piles of cash, that probably wouldn't be a problem, would it be? I want you to listen to what the BIS leader just says. Now, the BIS is the Banking of International Settlements. They've been using a form of CBDC, and they're kind of, that's how countries basically pay each other. America pays Europe, Europe pays Japan, Japan pays China. They work through things like the IMF and BIS. So it says this. This is Augustine Carson's main concern here. The manager of the BIS, the bank that controls all central banks, in a video, he unequivocally says CBDC is meant for and intended for control and stopping crime. He believes that cash and other forms of monetary policy could be criminal. So he wants CBDC to be forefront. He wants digitized currencies to be forefront, so he can make sure that it's about good monetary policy and control. Now, do we honestly believe we want bigger players over our money just so they can say what's right and what's wrong? He literally stated it. He is the leader of all banking, basically, in the world when it comes to maneuvering money from central banks to countries. And he's literally saying the whole point of CBDC is to get the theft out, to control, to make sure that we can have good monetary policy. So they set monetary policy, the same believers that are like WEF, same believers in the climate thing, the same believers in the 2020, same believers in what Bank of America and Wells Fargo believe in, the same believers in liberal ideology. We want them over our money. So what did I say? It comes down to cash, having cash. You need to make sure you have got cash put up. Secondly, you need to be buying things with your cash, so that becomes a parallel society. Truly freedom. If I want a vehicle, or if I want to buy food, if I want to support a farmer, if I want to buy a piece of equipment, if I want to do something at my home, what do I do it with? I like cash, because then that is agreement between me and the other person and the freedom of doing business. If I want to buy something and I do it with cash, then no one knows about it but us too. I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm not saying I'm buying something wrong. I'm just saying the agreement is between us without government intervention or without banking intervention. So it helps us barter, it helps us buy, it helps us put up, stockpile things that may be worth buying. Gold, that would be the only other form of currency that I would tell you to definitely purchase. It's just my opinion. It's at the highest point it's ever been. So everybody's like, I hate to buy at the highest part of the market. Well, it doesn't mean it's not going to go higher. Some reports, even some of these banks are still stockpiling gold. The central bank, still stockpiling gold. The Fed, still stockpiling gold. China, still stockpiling gold. Why are they stockpiling gold? Because they know the true value is in things that are tangible, not in crypto and not in all this stablecoin they're pushing. The point of pushing you on these things is to control you. It's not to control them. You're not going to have control over them. They're going to still have value and assets in things like gold and in commodities. And that goes to the next point. Seeds, commodities, foods. Are we stockpiling cash? Are we also using cash to buy the things that we want and need so we can keep it between me and the other person? Also, are we looking at buying gold, because that is the true tangible currency that is worth something across the world? That is true money, true assets. And then on top of that, we're buying other things that are barterable and other commodities that are valuable. Think in history. What brought value? Salt for curing, honey for curing, sugar for curing. What brought value? Seeds for growing food. Making sure that we can put up certain herbs and certain goods, certain medicinal plants. That's what we should be purchasing. I tell people all the time, buy seeds, because those seeds are worth so much more than the $100 or the $50 or the $20 or the $1,000 or whatever you pay for the seed vaults or whatever you buy. It's worth way more than that, because it's life. It's food. So commodities, have to have commodities. And then lastly, debts. You have to get out of debt. 59%, there's a new study that says 59% do not have $1,000 to their name. They may have a credit card, but they do not have $1,000 to the name. If we don't have $1,000 to our name and then we're in piles of debt, you are subservient to the government at all times. You will need them to take care of you. You will be the little chirping bird in the nest waiting for mama to come back home. So it's time to side hustle. It's time to gain some extra money. It's time to do some side work. It's time to make sure to do whatever you can to get out of debt. You also got to make sure that you are on budgets and stay out of debt. Focus on gaining money. Now, I'm not saying that because money is the power and money is everything. It's not. Love, health, your family, of course, Christ is power and what true worth is. However, we have to have cash, and I'd rather have cash and not have debt than to have piles of debt and no cash. But that's exactly what our government is pushing you to. From this administration, not really Trump administration, but I'm talking about government overall, to even down to BIS, even down to our Fed. All that is pushing for currency that is not cash. They're wanting to destroy cash so they can control you. So my words for you is this: stockpile cash, buy things with cash, get out of debt, make sure you're buying things like gold and commodities, seeds, things that you can eat, food, that is key, and make sure you're building your family up to be smart with money. Because right now our government's not, and most people are not, because they're going for crypto. These banks are pushing it, and everybody's like, yes, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, yes! When just a few years ago we were dogging them out for supporting the WEF. My, how the tides have turned. Pay attention to these stories because they're important. It's all about your money. When everybody's pushing against money, including our own government, taking away the chance to having pennies, nickels, oh, what about quarters? Oh, what about dimes? What about dollars? All that's frivolous and worthless. Let's just go to stable coins. I mean, we have our government pushing stable coins. Everybody so far that we pushed against in the global initiative now is embracing crypto and Bitcoin. That should be telltale signs of a red warning. Pay attention to these stories, guys. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.